And I want you to know, as we think back over time on the things that can happen to our portfolio when our guard is down, those rose-colored glasses can prohibit us from taking vital steps to put a risk management plan in place. Hey folks, I'm Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord & Richards. And once again, I'm excited to be talking to you today about how to achieve financial independence. And this is a subject that is, of course, near and dear to my heart because every single day we're talking to people just like you who have concerns about what's going on in the world and around us. It's a volatile world. It's an unpredictable world. And folks that I'm talking to are concerned that those things are going to mess up their retirement and their plans for financial independence, to do what they love with the people that they love in the places that they love without having to work. And so here at Lord & Richards, we take a set of key biblical principles and on that build a foundation of planning. It might sound strange to you to combine that, but the Bible actually talks about money more than almost any other subject. And it's not that it's all about the Bible saying God just wants to take from you. God wants to give you principles so that you and your household can prosper and thrive. And one of the key biblical principles found in the Book of Proverbs, which is just so full of wisdom, is that a wise man, a prudent man, a person who is concerned about the future is going to leave an inheritance to their children's children. Right? That is a sign of wisdom. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to leave it to your kids. I always say, well, notice it says children's children. You could just skip it over to the grandkids. But that's a sign of what we call estate planning. It means think ahead to when you die and what's going to happen that you leave behind. Are you going to leave it to charity? Are you going to leave it to family and so forth? And the same thing, the prudent man foresees the evil and is warned. When it comes to the very first kind of plan that you need in your comprehensive financial independence roadmap here at Lord & Richards is going to be a written risk management plan. A risk management plan says, look, I don't know everything that can go wrong, but we have a lot of history to teach us the things that we know can go wrong, and then we can do our best to prepare in advance. As someone has wisely said, failing to plan is planning to fail. I don't want us to do that, right? So when I sit down with my clients, as my team and I sit down with our clients, what we want to do is develop a written plan for financial independence. It's going to include 5 things: a written risk management plan, a written healthcare plan, a written tax mitigation plan, a written estate plan, and a written income plan. Now, don't worry if you weren't able to keep up with all those, because I'm going to take them one at a time right now, starting with risk management. Most people are focused on just the upside. I hate to say it, but as an entrepreneur, I'm part of that optimistic class of business owners that tends to see the positives and forgets about the negatives. But we don't want you to act like that in financial planning. What we want to do is balance out the risks and the rewards. And so to do that, you need to have a good idea of risk. Now, to illustrate that, years ago, my wife unfortunately went through a devastating car accident. Out of God's goodness, her life was preserved, but she was left with a lot of physical issues after that to this day, my wife recently had a partial knee replacement related to that accident and the damage that was done. But, after everything had settled down and my wife was safely home and, on the path to recovery, we had to take that totaled vehicle. It wasn't her fault, but we had to take that totaled vehicle, get rid of it, and replace it with a new vehicle. And what do you think my priority as her husband, as her provider, as the person who has given my life to my wife? We've been married now 32 years. What do you think my priority was in a vehicle purchase? And people say, well, probably safety. I like to say that I went out and got her the fastest British 2-seater in its class. Some of you might not know this, but the British FV101 Scorpion holds the Guinness record for the fastest production tank out there, that it can reach a top speed of 51 miles an hour. Yes, I have encased my wife in steel her whole life. Now, it wasn't a British tank, but I will tell you, if you see what my wife drives in, she has been encased in steel for the last multiple decades since that accident. And I want you to know, as we think back over time on the things that can happen to our portfolio when our guard is down, AKA when we've gotten too used to gains coming from the markets that just never seem like they're going to go away, those rose-colored glasses can prohibit us from taking vital steps to put a risk management plan in place. Because how many people were caught off guard in 2007, 8, and 9? How many people were caught off guard in 2000 when they lost half their portfolio? Their 401k literally became a 201k. We don't want that for you. What we want is a written plan to look in advance at the danger, to foresee the evil, be warned, and develop that plan so that when the time comes, not if, when the time comes that the market cycles down and cycles down in a big way, and it's not a question of if, it's going to happen, you are prepared in advance. You see, there were people going into, let's take one of the biggest crashes, 2008, 2009, people were going into that crash who actually prospered during that time. Not only did they not lose money, but they may have well gained. You know those people exist. You might have met one or heard about them, and you say, well, they rigged the system or whatever. Well, the truth is that many people knew that this would eventually happen. They may not have been able to time it. The people who claim to know exactly when it would happen, were probably wrong about their other 10 predictions before that. But whether you know the date, you can still be prepared in advance. And we had clients that never lost a dime during that period of time. You say that's not possible. Well, it actually is. As part of your financial independence, possible to develop a plan in advance so that you don't lose your wealth. Lord & Richards will actually stand behind that. We call it our safety percentage. At Lord & Richards, we will guarantee, together in consult with you, that you will not breach below your safety percentage, the number that you tell us you're comfortable taking a risk on. Of course, we know there's a correlation between risk and reward, and we're helping you grow and build your assets, your retirement, because expenses aren't static. We've seen the effects of inflation. We know that life doesn't stand still, so we've got to have growth. But what we've got to do is put in place a plan to mitigate that risk, to reduce your potential downside. At Lord & Richards, we call that institutional risk management. That's institutional risk management. It means we're going to use tools that are either provided by or used by institutions, foundations, endowments, pensions, insurance companies, whatever large entities that you can think of that's loaded, right? Versus us, the mere mortals who have a normal portfolio. These entities may have multi-billion portfolios. Think Harvard University with the largest endowment in the world at over $40 billion. Wow, what we wouldn't do. Well, you know what? They don't just count on that money being there always. They employ a strategy to not only gain, but also to protect themselves on the downside. And it's not one thing. You see, at Lord & Richards, we're going to take a combination of tools from all areas. I notice that financial advisors often like to get into one lane. Well, I just do stocks, or I just do mutual funds, or whatever, or I just do insurance. Lord & Richards is a superhighway. We're in every lane so that we can take from every tool available to help you build a roadmap that will honor your safety percentage, and we'll guarantee it. And it just takes a phone call to find out more about how we can do that for you and help you achieve financial independence without worry.